Oh.
Yeah, we started doing video. Very true. And be careful, kiddo, because it's the background's moving around a whole bunch. But I guess that's expected. Yeah, we're starting to do video now. Today's the first day of doing video. Because with coronavirus, a lot of bands can't go out and tour. So a lot of bands are showing up, like yourself, with incredible video. So today we're going to go ahead and try it and see if we can do it. And then because it's a podcast, there is no video format. So we'll just be releasing them to YouTube.
All right.
Yeah. Lovely. So here we go. Hello, and welcome to the Rock and Roll Podcast. I am your host, John Harris. On my left-hand side today is my right-hand man, Gabriel.
We have a tailwind that we need a wing Octosun up.
Right. Today on Rock and Roll Podcast, we have Arcana, and they've got a new EP called Letters from a Lost Soul, Act 1, The World 1 Forms. Is that correct? Am I correct on that one?
Yes. Yeah, very lengthy title.
It is a very lengthy title, which was released at the time of recording about a week ago on November 6th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Fantastic. Right now I'm being joined by Rogan, and he's going to share some more information about what they've got going on, what they've been up to. So, Rogan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely great to have you on. I dig this stuff. I really, really do. And which is cool is, you're in Calgary. So it's like, hey, one of Alberta's own.
Yeah, just a little south.
Yeah, just a little south. Now, I guess my first question is, going into this year with coronavirus, has this impacted Arcana's marketing plan at all? Or have you guys, I don't know, is it kind of going to plan? Or how has this year gone for you guys? Has it been a blessing in disguise? Has it made rubbish? How has this year gone for you guys?
Oh, well, definitely like most bands always have the plan of like doing a live release show or something and like being able to go out there and like play their music. And I was like being mostly a solo project with like Dason, who does the drums and editing and stuff. Like it's a little different, but I was like putting together a little group to actually play live and do like the occasional gig and stuff. But yeah, obviously that was thrown a little under the bus by all of this. But otherwise, I think the plan was mostly just to work with social media and like other forums and like get my website up to show visual content and stuff. And other than that, like, yeah, I've been working with one of my good buddies who is a professional in social media marketing. So she's been able to help me a little through all of this.
Okay, and that brings up a very, I don't want to call it a bold question, but it's not often that a band or a solo artist or really anybody in the music industry consults a professional social media strategist. So, I mean, I guess without giving away too many of the secrets, what has that been like? Has it been eye-opening? Are we all doing it wrong, Rogan?
Well, I'm a big proponent of like, ask for help where you aren't certain. So and like social media has always kind of been an area where I haven't like delved too deep into like the various forms and arts of working that.
Okay, very cool stuff. Now, you mentioned that we've got a couple, if I call them guest musicians on the record, Dason and Anna.
Yes.
And Dason's also looks like he's doing some mixing and mastering, which you had kind of mentioned as well. So I guess take us through, how did this EP come to fruition? Was it something you were planning on doing entirely solo and then some guest musicians came along? Has that changed over time? Take us through the creation of this record.
Well, I've always been sort of inspired by the whole like grand like rock opera concept, and where like a lot of bands like I can think of Genesis and Dream Theater have done that with just the one voice. I wanted to very much go down the stream of bands like Arion and Avantasia that like use all the different like singers from across like the spectrum to form into this whole like sort of character production.
Okay. Yeah, quite a few things come to mind. Queen comes to mind. And I guess one of my questions is, what goes into creating a rock opera? And maybe even more broad to that, what is an opera? How do you know that you have successfully created a rock opera?
Well, I think definitely a huge part of opera is creating the like the different emotions through like the different character voices, but as well as like the underlying score. So a lot of that is like expressing exactly the feeling that you want in a specific moment to portray what the characters are going through in that exact scene.
Okay, now you mentioned characters, so this gives us a really good opportunity to get into those characters, get into that story. I've got some stuff written down in front of me, but I want to hear it from you. What is the story? Who are our characters? Let's get to know these people.
Yes. Okay. So I guess to preface this, the EP is very much a and even Letters from a Lost Soul, the 3 acts I have planned for that as a whole are a prologue to a larger story. So at this point, it is what is developing the characters to get to that point where the larger events take place. So essentially, Damien is the father of one at this point, and it kind of, the EP takes us through from like the sort of overture that happens with Letters from a Lost Soul and Wings at the beginning, to Octosun at the end. It takes us through his life and his relationship with his wife Hope, but also his daughter Cassidy, and it a large part of that is sort of the he is away from home a lot. He's working on this like collapsing space age project that just the dynamic of the world doesn't see very much of a need for it anymore. But that is taking him away from his family, and this is him trying to get back to them, like to be able to mend that relationship.
Wow. So there's a few things that are broken. His career basically doesn't need to happen anymore, but he's wrapped up in it. It's his life's work, but he's sacrificed his family for that life's work that no longer even This is deep stuff, Rogan.
Yes.
I guess like a basic question could be, where did you come up with this? But I mean, I guess, were you looking for a story that a lot of people could relate to? Were you bending on certain thematic concepts? Again, I've got some stuff written down here, like sci-fi and mythology. But I mean, I guess take us through what went into crafting this. Seems like a lot of time. Now I know why you only did an EP, because if you did a full album, like, man, you'd be sacrificing your family, and then you'd end up becoming Damien yourself, and then it would just be terrible. Was there a fear of becoming Damien during this whole time? People didn't see you for months.
Oh, well, definitely, like being a student in sort of like an arts-centered degree as well, where it like a large proponent of that like component is written. Like there's very much times where like 2 weeks will pass where I'm like in my studio either working on like a large essay or like recording music or writing, and so there are large periods of time where like nobody really sees me.
Perfect. Now, a couple of the tracks we wanted to chat about specifically were Tailwind and now, so there's two sets of Wings. There's Wings at the beginning of the EP, and then we've got this Octosun / Wings towards the end.
Yes.
Okay. So the 2 tracks we wanted to chat about were Tailwind and Octosun / Wings. One has a music video, the other has a visualizer video or a listening video. Why these 2 tracks did you wanted to chat about from the whole story?
Oh, well, I thought very much like Wings kind of bridges the gap between them. It's kind of like in the middle area of that, where Tailwind is very much more the sort of contemporary, more like pop focused piece. Like it's in that 4/4, but it still plays with those rhythms a little bit. But also with like Anna's voice being the the center lead to that as well. That very much contrasts what comes next with like the very dark like synth layers and the building, and yeah, more along the lines of like classic prog metal, with those like, yeah, the more distorted guitars and a lot more growls that you can hear, and the layering of vocals.
Okay, classic prog metal. We're talking about Yes. We're talking about Rush.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool stuff. Now, you mentioned playing with some rhythms. So does this record get pretty technical then? Like, are we playing with time signatures and tempo changes? And if I looked at the tempo map on this, would I vomit?
Oh, not so much the yes, not so much the tempos at this point. I think those stay pretty steady throughout. Where the real challenge comes through is like all of these little interludes, trying to bring that from one tempo to another. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely playing around with time signatures. Not so much on Tailwind. Tailwind's pretty straightforward in terms of time signature switching. It's just in 4/4 throughout the entire thing, but I play with the subdivisions of that from within. Especially in the guitars, you can hear that. Where Octosun is very much like it opens with that 7/4 riff that is like the beat on one, like the main beat is like shifted over 2 measures. So.
Okay. Now, when it came to making Tailwind straight 4/4, did it just kind of feel like the EP needed that kind of grounding? Is that something that maybe makes sense? I don't know. Is 4/4 more grounding than other things?
Well, I think a large part of that is I very much I love the idea of like experimenting and expanding outside of what I'm comfortable with musically, and the idea behind Tailwind and with future albums too is I very much want to work in sort of a more contemporary sort of pop piece or like contemporary rock piece, because I spent a whole lot of time not writing that, so I'm just sort of flexing my influences and my and sort of that growth, and show that I can be diverse in those areas.
Mm-hmm. Niccolo Paganini can do AC/DC. Hell's bells, and then break into Niccolo Paganini. It'll work. Cool. So, Letters from a Lost Soul, Act 1, and you'd mentioned for future albums. So is this rock opera, is it ever going to end? What happens? Or is it going to be Act 2, Act 3, Act 4? We need to know, Rogan. We need to know.
At this point, I have it divided into 2 sort of larger arcs. So Letters from a Lost Soul is going to be 3 acts. And the next album that's coming out is going to be a part of the larger arc, which is Atlas Lost, and I've actually gotten 2/3 of that back from Dason for recorded drums at this point, but that is going to be more like 6 or 7 albums, where Letters from a Lost Soul is going to be 3 acts.
You know, this could just be because my formal background is language and literature and linguistics. These titles you have, Letters from a Lost Soul, and I can't immediately remember the next one that you have, Atlas Lost. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Some heavy literature things are coming to mind. Like Letters from a Lost Soul sounds like something that Dostoevsky or Gogol would write, like something really dark, or Edgar Allan Poe, that kind of thing. And then Atlas Lost kind of reminds me of Ayn Rand a little. Do you spend any time in the literary world?
Not so much. Like I've delved into it, especially like my degree is music. So a lot of the times I will like shift over to the poetry range, or like look into backgrounds and what influenced that. And a lot of that is like mythology and like written works from the time, when you look at like composers from like Baroque through Renaissance.
You just spoke some dirty words there, Rogan.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Baroque and Renaissance. Baroque is more of my favorite ones, although romance can be a fun time. You mentioned having a degree in music, and how do you feel? Does that help you? Does that hurt you when it comes to writing these kinds of things?
Oh, I think I definitely I kind of get into my head sometimes, and whether it's a lot of my that feeds into my process for writing very much. Like a lot of the times I will write something because I think it's complex, and then I'll learn it afterwards. And so at that point, if I've written something that is like way beyond me, it's like a learning curve to get up there. I have to put in the work to when it comes to recording.
Okay.
One thing.
Okay, one thing. Gabriel's got a question. Into the microphone, kiddo.
If the temple map was starting at 400, then to 1 million, then to 1,100,000, then to 4 million, then Daddy would be vomiting right now.
So true story. We do mixing and mastering ourselves, and I've worked with some progressive bands, and they send me the tempo map, and it's just, you look at it and you just want to vomit. You're like, oh, are we serious here? There's like tempo changes and time signature changes all over the place. It's like you're just trying too hard. Come on. But I don't get the idea that you're trying too hard. This is very musical. And the approach to it is also, and I guess maybe that's what opera is, where a poetic literature comes together with music into what would now be, I guess, considered a musical. And I don't have that educational background to use the proper terms. But I'm speculating that before the days of a Broadway musical, we had opera. Is that okay? Yeah.
And there was a little bit of overlap too. Like there was a time when musical theater didn't really exist, but there was something else. It's a German name. I can't remember at this point, but it was very much an opera, but because there was like maybe 2 spoken lines throughout the entire thing, like the like higher ups, the people who thought like they were opera was like the highest art form you could get, it were like this is not opera.
Vomit.
Yeah. Boom. Okay. I believe that's all my questions. We chatted about Tailwind. We chatted about, well, we didn't really chat about the music video. So there's a music video for Tailwind, which looks like a playthrough, and you've run a filter on it. So if you go to today's show notes, www.therockmetalpodcast.ca, you can go and check out the music video as well. If you go to the arcanacollective.com, I believe as well, Rogan, we chatted about the EP, what's coming up next. Did we chat about your favorite kind of pizza yet?
No.
Okay.
Vomit pizza. What about vomit pizza?
Vomit pizza. Let's not do vomit pizza. Like, are you like a Panago guy? Like what's your pizza?
Oh, I would say I really dig like a margarita or a Mediterranean, like something with spinach and some bocconcini cheese and
Okay, Mr. Fancy Pants over here. What kind of wine do you have with your bocconcini?
Oh man. I'm not a huge alcohol guy, so a lot of the times I go towards like a sweeter wine. So something like a what is it? All of the wine names just flew out of my head.
It's okay. Moscato is a dessert wine that's very sweet.
Yeah.
Yep. Or an aperitif, which would be like a Riesling. It can also be very sweet, depending. It might be more cider-like if it's drier, but then what is your go-to then while you're having a beautiful margarita, say? What's your go-to beverage if you don't do? Because you wouldn't do Peroni, which would be like an Italian beer, and you wouldn't do like a Chianti, which would be an Italian wine. So what's your go-to?
I drink a lot of water. That's pretty much.
All right, there's the secret to it all, everybody.
My favorite pizza is vomit pizza.
Vomit pizza. There we go.
Vomit sauce, vomit cheese, vomit pepperoni.
Oh boy.
And it makes you vomit once you take a bite.
Yeah. I think we started something there.
So make sure to eat in the bathroom if you're eating it.
Okay. Fantastic.
Well, I actually don't eat vomit pizza though.
No, nobody does. Okay. Rogan, I believe we've chatted about everything. Is there anything that you were hoping we would chat about that I did not bring up?
Well, I think maybe delving into like the cover art and something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. So the sort of the concept behind that is I very much like a lot of color and especially like contrast. Like I think it's interesting to take something like this very dark concept and like the prog metal genre and prog rock genre as a whole that has like a lot of darker themes, and then take that and twist it and put like natural watercolor paintings and a lot of like pinks and vibrant teals and stuff and put that into the visual aspect, because then you have that contrast and it makes you think like, okay, maybe there's something down below the surface, and there's also always that light of hope.
Mm-hmm. Did you do the artwork then, or did you submit your ideas?
I had it commissioned by a local Calgary artist. Her name's Kate DePatie.
Okay.
And then so that's what the watercolor is in the center. And then I took that into Photoshop and put the logo on it. And
Is that Hope on the cover with the legs?
that is something that comes a little later in the concept that I'm hinting at here.
Okay, because I dig it. She's pretty.
With the long hair.
With the long hair and the legs and the dress and the faint, distant look in her eye. Everything says hello. Okay, beautiful. Was there anything else you wanted to chat about, Rogan?
I think that's it.
Okay, fantastic. What are you doing, son? What are you doing? Stop.
I'm trying to change the background.
No, don't change the background. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. This is Rogan's this is Rogan's moment, not your moment. Let Rogan have his moment. Okay? Thank you. Well, if that's all, baby, then thank you so much for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast today.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay,
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Go ahead and stop, please, sweetie.